Hello, we're here today at Falcon Park in Fuquay-Varina with Kristopher Vorren, who's running for Board of Commissioners in Fuquay-Varina. And we're at this lovely park today. Why did you choose Falcon Park?
I chose Falcon Park. It's not too far from my house, and it's a nice, quiet, and kind of peaceful park, as we can see today. And I think it's a good place to have a chat. It's nice out today. We're getting towards the end of the summer, so I wanted an outside location. So I like the small town feel of it, but it's still in Wake County. So when we moved here about 4 years ago, I believe, we wanted to be in Wake County because of the good school system. But Wake County is it's rapidly growing, and Fuquay-Varina is too. But we like the small town feel of Fuquay, and I think we like the parks. We like the people here are great. To get that small town feel, and still be in Wake County. Personally, I think I have a different perspective that many of politicians would have. So I'm actually a nuclear physicist by training, so I kind of have that more scientific mindset. And oftentimes, people who go into politics have more of a legal or business-minded mindset, and that's great. But going back to diversity, we need kind of a diversity of ideas and a diversity of method of thought. So I hope this kind of technical mindedness that I have would help bring something extra to the table. I'm kind of weird, and I like to go to the meetings a lot. I'm very interested in just kind of how the town works. And what I'll say, there's of course politics involved in the town board, but it's mostly Democrats and Republicans coming together and trying to do what's best for the town. And everyone's very civil. It's not like what you see on TV where it's kind of like a wrestling match or something. And so I'm sitting in there in these meetings, and oftentimes, towards the end of the meeting, I'm usually the only person in there who doesn't have to be there, right? And so when Commissioner Wunsch decided he wasn't going to run again, I was like, well, I'll try and throw my hat in the ring. And other folks that I work with, some of the Democrats had encouraged me to run too, because they're like, well, you go to the meetings and you kind of enjoy it, why not? I am kind of involved in politics. That's the way I see the best way to enact change and help your community is go directly into politics. So I'm a precinct chair for the Democratic Party. Politics can be kind of taboo a little bit, and people think, oh well, it can kind of have a bad vibe, let's say. But I see it as a way to affect change in the community. You can, charities and community organizations, churches, all these places are great, and I'm glad to have them in our community and helping a community. I see politics as the way, if you get a bad politician in there who can kind of destroy everything you've worked for, then all that hard work kind of goes down the drain. And so I have seen politics as the way to kind of best try and help the community. And so I volunteer. I've done election day. I've done community organizing in that regard, just getting out the message of candidates, and now trying to get out my own message. The issues, of course, everyone is going to talk about, I think, is going to be housing affordability, traffic, and then those two issues are very tough, and I'm sure we'll talk more about that. The third issue that I have, and it has to do with kind of the parks and everything, is heating and cooling. So Wake County, being from the mountains, is very hot, and it's getting hotter every year. And so I've been out in the parks, and here we have some shade, if you look around, but we need more natural and artificial shading in this town. And so I made that actually one of my key platform points, because I think it's something that a commissioner in a single commissioner term could work on and could realistically make some changes on. And I do want to talk about housing affordability and traffic. Those are much longer term issues, much more difficult issues. And to be honest, a commissioner doesn't necessarily have, there's no magic wand, right? So that's something that, so those will be like the kind of broad scale issues. And then this, the heating and cooling issue in town, shade, that's kind of more of a smaller level issue. My idea, I've thought about that. That's a good question. It's a difficult one. And it comes down to, I think, diversity. And when I say diversity, I mean like diversity of zoning, diversity of housing, diversity of the types of housing, the diversity of the kind of people who live in the neighborhoods. And so part of the issue, I think, with traffic here in Fuquay is when you think about how Fuquay-Varina is laid out, you have kind of a downtown area or the main street where all the stuff to do is, say, shopping, restaurants, parks even. And then the houses are kind of all around that. So even me, to come here, I had to get in my car and drive, 10 minutes just to come to the park and, talk with you today. And I have to do the same just to run to get a single grocery. So we're all getting in our cars and adding to traffic on the road, and, it's stressful. And so I think when we're building these, new developments, or as I say on my website, I say we should build neighborhoods and not developments. And by that I mean, let's kind of put the things to do also in these new neighborhoods that we're trying to build. Because we're going to need to build housing. We're growing rapidly, and so instead of putting all the commercial in one area and then all the residential in separate, and then we have to get in our cars to, drive, let's kind of diversify and mix it all together.
What will the council do differently to enact that, you think?
So the council has some power over like zoning regulations, and they have some power over approving like a new development and the kind of plat. So there are some new developments coming, and they are mixed use. So there's one down on Purpoy Road and Old Honeycutt Road. They're building, it's going to be dense housing, and they're going to do some, traffic impact. They're actually improving the roads there too as they do it. So that, I think, it's a well-planned project. There's a new grocery store coming, and so you'll have some density housing there. And to that point, not everyone likes living in high-dense housing. I used to live in an apartment, and the neighbors were all stomping all day. So I think we need kind of also a diversity of the type of housing we build. So high density, single family homes are okay too. We do have space, and kind of what a lot of people will call this missing middle. So duplexes, quadruplexes, smaller apartment. If we can mix that all in, then you get people, different types of people who want different living situations, kind of all in the same spot. And I suspect that would have an impact on the future traffic. As I mentioned, there's no real magic wand to fix traffic today, but I see the board as a planning, almost as like we're planning for the future. What we do today is going to impact 5, 10 years, 15 years down the road. So we have to be looking out as we're growing. I think so. I think throughout the Triangle, we have various towns and cities that have their own bus systems. Go Raleigh, go Durham, go Cary. I like the idea of the bus. It's hard maybe sometimes to get people to encourage people to ride the bus. And part of that's a chicken and egg problem. You have to have it before you get people to ride it. I think it's a cost-effective solution that can help bring down traffic, because we can add buses for relatively cheap compared to other traffic calming measures. And if people are discouraged from maybe riding the bus or think it won't work, we can look at a good example in our own state, and that's in Chapel Hill, where they have the Chapel Hill Transit, and it gets all the college students onto campus from all different parts of town, and it has great ridership. And I used it personally for years when I was in school in Chapel Hill, and it's an example of something that works. And if you think about it, the town of Chapel Hill is kind of laid out similarly to Fuquay-Varina. We have the central area where all the commerce is done here in Fuquay. Chapel Hill has, of course, the university. And so if we think about how we can organize the bus maps and encourage ridership, we'll have to do a campaign for that. I think it could be an effective solution that would help bring our community together and reduce traffic, hopefully. I mentioned, when I was saying why I wanted to run, it's maybe sometimes difficult to get people to attend the meetings, right? So the council needs to kind of meet people where they are, and they do to some extent. We have the Follow Me to Fuquay concert series that attracts, large, because it's a great concert, it's a great event, and so it would be the responsibility of council members to, show up, have a presence at those events, and talk to people where they're at, and that includes other, groups that may face marginalization too. We need to make sure, especially we need to be advocating for everyone in our community. And so we need to meet folks where they're at, because it's hard, it's a Tuesday night, you've got families, it's hard to make that meeting sometimes, with everything else going on, so. Yeah, I think it's a shame that we have to even consider the SNAP cuts that are coming. And I think government has a responsibility to ensure people have enough to eat. Honestly, it's a public health issue, among other things. So we need to, in the short term, we need to work with our partners in the community, charities, churches, businesses, to make sure that we can get enough food for everyone. And kind of in the longer term, we need to think about how we get food to people and how it's managed. So if you think about at a restaurant, the most efficient method actually to feed a bunch of people is kind of buffet style. Maybe at a wedding, or you go to a buffet, it's cost effective. And so if the government and maybe other partners could help sponsor something like a community cafeteria, that could help ensure that everyone gets enough to eat, and it would also be a good place for people to come together, and a community space, because I think food in general brings people together, and so we want to make sure that everyone has enough to eat and everyone can discuss the issues that are facing them in their lives. I've thought about this a little bit too, because we've been growing, and so towns and municipalities and the counties, they get their money from property taxes, or revenue, I should say. So we should be able to think of ways to take advantage of the economies of scale, and our tax base is continually growing, so that means our revenue base is going up. That means we should be able to increase our funding without having to raise the individual tax rates. And so we need to make sure that we're organizing our community in such a way to take the most advantage of that. And part of it is sitting down and doing the budget process, and seeing how we can organize all the town services effectively and take advantage of that economy of scale. And density, we are becoming more dense as we grow. Density should help with that. But of course, that introduces a new problem, so it's not like a one-to-one trade-off. Part of my whole platform running for town board, is that we're experiencing this growth. Let's take advantage of it. Let's make sure that it benefits our community and everyone in our community, not just the builders and the people who already have all the money. Let's make sure that it works out. And growth is a good thing. It's a good problem to have, but it needs to be managed responsibly.